I was never the type to believe in paranormal stuff, but I never thought that they were actually real until a few years ago. In 2010, my family and I moved into a new house in Port Chester, New York. Due to all the things I experienced, I really didn't like that house, even though it was pretty nice. It all started when I would have to take care of my little brother at night while my parents were at work. Honestly, I don't remember where my older sister was, but I don't remember her ever being there. I could never go to sleep at night facing my room. I would have to face the wall and hide under the covers. I would always feel a presence right in front of my face if I faced the room. It would watch me, and I would be terrified. That would be the worst part of the day. Months later, I felt the presence again. One night, while my parents were out at a party, I had everything turned on because due to the experiences, I was more cautious. I was using my computer when out of nowhere, all of a sudden, I felt it again, right behind me. I got so cold and couldn't move, not an inch. I don't know if it was paralysis or if I was too terrified to look back and see what creature or spirit was looking right at me. I don't know what it was, but it was a strong feeling. After 3 minutes or so, I felt it leave and I could finally move again. That whole night, I was terrified. The basement was the scariest place to be. It was cold, and I could always feel someone staring at me. One night, I was looking through some photos on my mom's phone. I was the only one to take pictures in the family, and when innocently looking through the pictures, I saw a picture I swear I never took. It was one in the kitchen, and there was a girl with long straight hair in a white dress in the corner of the picture. I got scared and told my mom, and she thought I was playing a trick on her. A few weeks later, my mom left to the store and told me that my cousins were coming that day. I was coming out of the bathroom and saw the doorknob moving and shaking. Someone was pushing on the door back and forth, and it looked like someone was really trying to get in. I stared at it thinking, how can anyone be trying to get through that door? We only use it to get to the basement, and you would need keys to open the door behind that to get to this door. I asked who was there, but there was no answer. Then it stopped, so I opened it, but no one was there. I thought my cousins were behind the wall and were going to jump out and scare me, so I waited. Nothing. So I stepped in the hallway and saw nobody. The basement door was open though. I quickly closed the door and still couldn't believe what happened. After moving to a different house, I was on the computer and decided to do some research on that house. I found an old article where it said that in the 1800s, there was a girl in her early 20s who passed away a few days after her marriage. It kind of shocked me that that girl could have been the one I saw in the picture, but she didn't seem harmful. This took place in Carthage, Texas, during my last 2 years of high school, which was 2010 to 2012. I was plagued with horrendous nightmares. They were so bad that I would be awoken in the middle of the night, every single night. Imagine your worst fears on steroids, times 100, and you will understand how bad they were. Every time I would wake up, I would see shadowy figures standing around my bed staring at me. Unfortunately, they would disappear after a second or two. But I got a good clear look at one of them. They were tall and almost transparent, slender, and had piercing red eyes. Every night, I would try to count to see how many there were. After 2 solid months of attempts, I counted 7 distinct and clearly different shadow beings. I did some research and found out that they were being called shadow people. There were various theories as to what shadow people are: demons, ghosts, time travelers, aliens, even a wacky theory that they were interdimensional beings. They would appear at night while their target was asleep. Their intentions are to torment and cause massive panic and fear in their target. I talked to my pastor, and he told me that shadow people are a type of demon that likes to go after those chosen by God to spread the word of his glory. Upon realizing what I was going up against, every night I did more research. This time I was fueled by caffeine and would stay up all night trying to figure out how to prevent or stop him from coming back. Unfortunately, I was not able to find anything that would not cause rumors of total insanity within my family and friends. It wasn't until I graduated high school in 2012 that I learned a way to protect myself from the shadow people. Some say that a gift from someone that loves you very much, such as a spouse or your special someone or your family, has special properties that keep you safe from harm. The day after I graduated, I had a graduation party that I shared with my girlfriend at the time. I received the normal kinds of gifts you get at a graduation party, but I was given something that I still keep to this day. After the main festivities, my girlfriend pulled me aside and handed me a box. She said that it was from her grandma, who thought the two of us would be together forever. The box was cardboard and approximately 1.5 feet long and 1 foot wide. I opened the box and pulled out a ceramic rustic cross. As I said before, gifts from loved ones tend to have special properties that keep you safe, and this was a cross. I thought to myself that this was a double whammy to the shadow people that plagued me every night. I immediately went to my room and placed it on my wall above my bed. I went back to my party and continued with the festivities. That night, I fell asleep a lot faster than normal. There were no horrendous nightmares, but I was awoken that night by almost 7 distinct growls that only I heard. I was amazed that only I heard the growls, because they were loud and angry. I sat up in my bed that night and saw the shadow people staring at me once again. I knew that I had no reason to fear now that I had some form of protection. I watched them as they disappeared downward through my floor. To this day, I've never had another shadow people-induced nightmare. I think it was November of 2015. My friend and I decided to finally hang out after a long time. We go to school in the same city, but our hours are very different, so we don't really have the time. I had swim practice, and by the time I was done, she arrived home from school. I was done changing and walked past the cafeteria of our local arena. I threw a quick glance and saw a woman in a black dress with long black hair staring at me with completely black eyes. I looked away, but couldn't help but to throw one more quick glance because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Every time, she still sat there and stared at me. I got a strange demonic vibe from her. When I passed the cafeteria and couldn't see her anymore, my friend ran up behind me. She had jumped off at the arena and waited for me in the small cafeteria, but I hadn't noticed her, obviously. I asked if she had seen the woman sitting there, and she didn't remember anyone. I was kind of freaked out, but I haven't seen the woman since. I was raised in a small town in Kentucky, along with a very large part of my mom's family. Another part of my mom's family lived in Louisville, and we moved back and forth between the two. During one of the times my mom lived in Louisville, I was married at the time, still living in the small town I grew up in. I drove back to spend the day with her, but I had to get back home because it was starting to get dark outside and had close to a 60-mile drive. I decided that in order to avoid traffic and the lights on the main highway, I would take a back road that ran along the flood wall. There is about a 5-mile stretch along the flood wall that is very isolated and dark at night, so needless to say, I was stepping on the gas. As I was about at the midway point of the flood wall where it was deserted, I saw a teenage girl hiking alone, and my first concern was that something awful had happened to her, so I thought it wouldn't hurt to pick her up. I started slowing down, and I heard this sound in my head that resembled an explosion and started to feel panic. I don't remember stepping on the gas to bypass her, but my car suddenly gained speed. I was so scared at the time, and I didn't know why. All I could think of was to put the distance between us as fast as I could. When I looked in my rearview mirror at her, I saw 2 other people, both male, climbing out of the ditch, which I couldn't see from the road. I couldn't determine their age or anything, only that they were male. I'm 48 years old now, and after all these years, I still wonder what that sound in my head was, and if I had stopped to pick her up, would I still be here today? Why were those guys hiding down there? When I was about 7 or 8 years old, my family and I lived in an old holler. It was named Coal Holler. It was a very poor part of town, and we lived in a 3-room shack that sat slightly on a hillside. I didn't have many toys, and I guess my older brother by 15 years felt sorry for me and bought me an old worn-out but still rideable big wheel that he found at a yard sale. I rode it until there were holes in the wheels. I woke up one morning, a school morning, and nobody was in the house but me. For some reason, unlike other mornings, I was so scared, and I looked around the house for my mother, wondering why she didn't wake me up for school. like she must have for my other brothers and sisters. I got so scared that I could only think of one place that my mother could be, her best friend Lucy's house. I ran through the house, looking for my shoes and then threw them on, so scared to be there alone. I took off on my big wheel and started down the holler to where Miss Lucy lived, but I felt I couldn't get my big wheel moving right and kept trying to pedal as fast as I could down the hill. A little ways downhill, my big wheel came to a complete stop and couldn't go anywhere, so I jumped off of it and started running to where my mom was. When I was about 3 houses away from Lucy's house, something told me to look up in the air. At first, I thought it was a black crow going really fast at me, but as I got closer, I could really see what it was. It looked to be a black figure, almost resembling a witch. It had a black dress on and a terrible looking face. She was sitting in the air at a dead stop about 30 feet high. I honestly can't explain it. I froze in my tracks and kept looking at her thinking, what is she going to do to me? At first, she just looked down at me and then looked away like she was looking the neighborhood over, and then she turned around and went back the way she came. I was so scared I wouldn't go outside for days, scared of seeing her again. I told my mother that morning what I saw, and of course she didn't believe me. She thought I was just scared because she wasn't home when I woke up, but I swear on a stack of Bibles, it really did happen.